Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Taj Mahal has been creating controversy all the time, and some people have gone to the courts not once, not twice, but many times. Apart from that, they have been asking for the government intervention to ensure that Taj Mahal is deemed to be a Hindu architecture, as if the government is the arbiter of what is Hindu and what's Mughal architecture. And recently there was a court case regarding 22 rooms in the basement of Taj Mahal, which is absolutely unjustified. I remember way back, the mystery was solved. Explanations were called, special teams were deputed, and it was found that this was a hoax. Many times highly educated, capable people have a bee in their bonnet. And they have an agenda. The agenda can be personal, it can be social, whatever, but this agenda is basically divisive and unscientific. Now, this case was presented to Allahabad High Court, which is still not Prayagraj High Court, on May 12, and it was dismissed. The petition was seeking a fact-finding committee to study and publish the real history of Taj Mahal, as if till now it has not been done. And a direction to open the sealed doors, approximately 22 rooms inside the Taj Mahal, to rest the controversy. No, there is no controversy. As a matter of fact, this controversy was sought to be created. And it's no secret history. I remember way back, this situation was created, and there was one Johnson leader, the precursor of BJP, Balraj Madhu. He was a professor. He met me and wanted me to intercede with the Prime Minister to do something. And I told him that I had studied myself Taj Mahal. I have been to Taj Mahal. But still we will do that. So a team of experts was sent there. And the so-called 22 rooms in the basement of Taj Mahal are not really rooms at all. I've been there myself. I've seen it. It's a long arched corridor along which the doors are fixed so that the space could be utilized better. And Archaeological Survey of India, they submitted this report. But then I thought, okay, let me go myself because Balraj is so insistent. And I was believed. And these rooms, so-called rooms, are cleaned weekly. When the rush is more, they are cleaned weekly, otherwise fortnightly. And there's nothing on the walls inside. The walls inside are just bare. The area is not of tourist interest. It's a basement. It was meant to prop. Architecture in those days was a different nature. And these were kept locked to prevent the easy movement of the people who, if they came, would just harm the infrastructure without in any way having any benefit. So they were kept locked to prevent unnecessary movement of the people and protect the World Heritage Site that gets approximately 100,000 village visitors every day. There is no secret history in the basement. It is only for the security reasons that the areas are kept out of the bound for the visitors. Now look at the architecture. And all the time, they are talking of the architecture, it's a Hindu architecture. Let's not forget, that the architecture of Taj Mahal is absolutely identical to the architecture of Humayun tomb and Safdarjung tomb in Delhi. So would they mean that even these should be declared Hindu monuments? And at no time in the history was there a division in the Hindu architecture and the Mughal architecture. I agree, there are certain outstanding features in each architecture, and that's very normal. But when a community or a religion is in your country, you are interacting socially, 90% of the Muslims are Hindu converts, or rather, no, almost 98%, I should say. And it was very common, and all the builders, 50% of the architects, other contractors were Hindus. So they were more attuned to the so-called Hindu architecture, and they incorporated the Hindu aspect into the Mughal buildings. But by and large, the design is Persian. As in my series on Taj Mahal, I had mentioned there was a series of 6 or 7, I think, outstanding features which people are not aware, and we showed it. Now, coming to these rooms, these basement rooms are, as I said, cleaned regularly, and it's just a structural element according to the architect. I've talked to the architects. And the purpose was to raise a plinth on which the main mausoleum and the minaret stands. For a structure of this size, it's a huge building. Once the foundation is done, arcs are created to lift the platform and spread the load uniformly. So this wall with arcs was erected to support the building. And then since the people don't go in and the arcs are there, the doors were fixed. And they were only for the sport purposes. Surveys have been conducted at least 7 times. And they have gone to the basement to test the strength of the Taj Mahal. Now, coupled with this, curiously, the purpose was that this was a temple. And it started when a revisionist professor, capable, erudite, scholarly, but with an agenda, he wrote a book. The Taj Mahal is Tijo Mahalia, a Shiva temple. Now, before I come to that, let me tell you that historically, the first time Taj Mahal is mentioned is Badshah Nama. It's absolutely wrong to say that there's no mention in the contemporary literature about Taj Mahal. There is. Badshah Nama is the first chronicle of Shah Jahan's reign, and it mentions that Taj Mahal is architectural features are such that could not have been built 50 years before that. It's a synthesis, as I said, of the Mughal architecture, the Persian, and the Hindu one. And being a synthesis, it takes time to synthesize different forms of architecture into one cohesive whole. So if it had been done even 1,000 years before that, 500 before that, that would not have been possible. And then double dome inlays, jalis from the various Mughal structures that existed at that time. Look at that. Does any Hindu temple has that double dome inlays? No. Does any Hindu temple have the jalis? No. As a matter of fact, historically and architecturally, I have talked to the architects of the repute, and all of them say no. Now, as I said, this was born from the conspiracy theory of P.N. Oak. And unfortunately, in the world, people are swayed when a theory is repeated 100 times. He says that the foundation of Shiva temple was commanded from the then ruler of Jaipur. Now, from raising questions on the nomenclature of the monument to its architecture, which according to P&O bears the imprint of Hindu temple. And he also says the story of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal is absolutely false, full of anomalies. And then he says the term Taj Mahal does not occur in any Mughal court paper, which is wrong, as I told you, in Badshah Nama. It's clearly mentioned. And he says that this is a corrupted form of Sanskrit term Tijo Mahalya, the abode of Mahadev, the Lord of Agra, Agreshwar Mahadev. That's what he says. He also says that the Hindu treatise on architecture, Vishwakarma, Vastu Shastra mentions Tej Linga among many Shiv Lingas. And he alleges that the same idol was consecrated in Taj Mahal and hence led its name to Tijo Mahalya. All that might have some semblance of truth. Shivalinga might have been there, I'm not denying it. But the building per se, the architecture per se, is absolutely not what is alleged by P&O. And the 20 rooms are not rooms, they are a long archway. Now look at that. And this was amazing. Historical records very clearly say that this was built by Taj Mahal. The carbon dating shows it was built during the time of Taj Mahal. And then he says Mahal is never a Hindu Muslim word. Words are not of religion. They are of a society. Vocabulary doesn't belong to one religion. No, word Khuda is used in Hindi hundreds and thousands of times. Rab is a Hindu word and is used by the Muslims as well. And then he says from Afghanistan to Algeria there is no building known as Mahal. Agreed. Because that was not a Hindu culture at that time was prevailing in those countries. But the synthesis of the cultures, the syncretization of the cultures evolved a vocabulary that was common to them. And then, the architecture, he says from Hindu temple, as I already said, yes, it has a part of Hindu features. That way, you look at the Gurdwaras, they are a part of Hindu features and they have an aspect of the Jewish culture. So does it mean that Golden Temple, for example, was either a temple of Lord Rama or of Jewish heritage? No. As a matter of fact, the whole thing was created to create a controversy, which is not. Then he talks of the reverberating dome. Does he know that any dome reverberates because that's a feature of that style of building? But to give it a religious thing, he said it was done to amplify the sound of bells. No. It is a part of human culture. You want to hear the echo. So that was done. And the whole thing was created. Further going down, if you see that according to Oak, from where this came up, Shah Jahan sealed up these chambers, walling them with whatever stone that came in handy, and these rooms include a beheaded image of Lord Shiva. Now, if Shah Jahan had usurped this temple, why should he keep the image of Lord Shiva? Could he not have thrown it away and destroyed it? Why keep it in the secret rooms? And those secret rooms which are no secret because the doors could be opened any time, and they have been opened many times. As I said, fortnightly and weekly, their cleaning is done. Now, if you go to the non-partisan archaeology experts, this is basically an biased opinion. The existing of Now, if you have gone to Taj Mahal, and most of you must have gone, there's a Quranic inscriptions in Arabic script, and that's approved by UNESCO. They have done the Kaaba reading. The most outstanding feature of the Taj Mahal, Mughal architecture, although its style combines all that, it's also Persian, it is Ottoman, Turkish, and Indian architecture. And honestly speaking, this style was inspired by Timurud and Mughal paintings. Gule Amrit in Samarkand, for example, or Itmaduddin tomb in Agra, Jama Masjid in Delhi, Safedjung tomb in Delhi, Humayun tomb in Delhi. All of them have the same architecture. So, the whole petition was based on Oakes' theory, which is not valid. Earlier also the case was pending in 2015. This case was filed, which was later on dismissed by the Supreme Court. The case went from the Magistrate Court to the High Court, and in 2017 the Central Information Commissioner had asked the government whether the monument was a temple or not, and the Supreme Court dismissed it. Now, question arises, why is this done? And then comes a BJP leader from, she's an MP basically, from Rajasthan, Diya Kumari. She claims that the palace was of the erstwhile Jaipur family, stood on the Agra land where Taj is given, and this was taken over by Shah Jahan and compensation was not given. Let me ask her, how many buildings, how much land have these kings and the rulers of various sectoral states in India misappropriated, taken over and not given compensation? Would she be willing to give compensation now? And then does she know that compensation is a civil matter and there's a time bar? You cannot claim compensation 500 years after the event. And the documented, okay, I accept that for the time being, that it might have belonged to Jaipur. I have no grounds with that. And it took it over. That way, the British took over lots of countries. Have we demanded compensation from them? Ashoka was king of Patliputra. He conquered how much of India? And when he conquered, did he give compensation? Wars are always fought, and they were being fought. Shah Jahan increased his empire. And as a matter of fact, you are forgetting that Agra was the capital. And much before Shah Jahan came into picture, Humayun was there, Babur was there. Delhi was not their capital. And if that was so, then evidently this was the spoils of war. So the whole thing is basically a hoax perpetrated to poison the minds of the people. And it has no validity at all, neither historically, nor scientifically, nor from the architecture point of view. There are no rooms. It just arched sport to the building to raise the plinth area, and it's regularly cleaned. To say they are secret is a misnomer and misleading. I hope much is being said about it. It's much ado about nothing, as one of my friends, Singh Jaspal of Misr, said, and he quoted an Indian proverb, Thotha Channa, Baje Gana, what we say, empty vessels make much noise. Better ignore it. It's all sound and fury, signifying nothing. Thank you.